Well, I mean, you had 3 years of college under your belt. Did you try to graduate from college while in prison?
No, I didn't take any criminal. My major was criminal justice, and I didn't want to do that anymore. That was not on my mind anymore for that. I did want to go back to school to try to do psychology because we took a drug program, which was a 500 hours, 9-month program. And I got to talking to some of the counselors in there, and as those 9 months was going by, I ended up being a counselor talking to some other guys. I ended up leading some groups and being able to help other people that went through the similar things I went through. So then I got interested and wanted to be a counselor, but I never followed up on it after I got out.
Well, what do you think was the most violent thing that you either experienced or saw while in prison? Because there's always violence.
Which one? I went to 6 different prisons.
Just pick the ones that stand out the most.
Beaumont, Texas. The nickname Bloody Beaumont. They made CNN. Had a body a week. I went through a riot there. Went through a riot in Big Spring. So it's prison. It's a whole nother world. Whole nother world.
Right. I mean, you being a 7-footer, I mean, obviously you stand out. People know you're from the NBA and so forth, but sometimes people get stripes for that type of thing. Did anyone ever try to test you, fight you, stab you?
A couple of times, a few times it might have happened, but it didn't. You try to diffuse most things that go on because one fight can start a whole compound of fighting. It can start other prisons to fighting, and nobody know why. A few incidents I've got into were pretty much staged to the point to where it was just an understanding that 2 people had to get this off their chest, and that's it.
Yeah. I mean, still a horrible way to live.
Yeah, but it's a horrible way to live, but if you're told to do one thing, and you got to do that because you don't want 400 people on your back.
Well, then 2011, in November, you end up getting released.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, how much time did you spend behind bars?
I spent 9 years. I did 9 years because the RDAP program put us out a 1.5 years off your time, guaranteed 6 months halfway house.
Right. So you end up getting put in a halfway house.
Mm-hmm.
What was that first day walking out of that cell like?
I mean, it was okay for me because my last 3 years, I think my last 3 years, I had got a gate pass from the warden, and I could leave prison every day and go work at the warehouse and come back at 6 in the evening. So I had got to the point to where I was working out there 8 months, and I told her, I said, I don't want to go back out no more because I feel like I'm re-entering prison every time I go out there. And she said, well, the only thing that can keep you from going out there is you get a write-up. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I done been through some of the most notorious prisons. Here I'm on my last leg getting out, and I got to get a write-up to get off of that? She was like, yeah. I said, I'm going to get a write-up. She said, well, I'm going to still leave you out there because your record already show you're not that kind of prisoner. So she left me outside in the warehouse. I stared at time for me to be released. And then after being released, it was just like going to work. It was like walking out, getting in the van, getting ready to go to work. And to the point the way it hit me, I wasn't going back.
Right, because you got put in a halfway house, and then by 2012, you left the halfway house.
Yes.
You got 3 years probation.
Mm-hmm.
But here you are with a drug felony on your record,
Mm-hmm.
no college degree, close to 50 years old, I guess 49 years old.
Yeah, 49.
And you got to figure out what to do with the rest of your life. And I guess you were a car salesman at one point?
Yes. I got out my first job. I mean, it took me about It took a long time in my own city to find a job. And I happened to go into Mississippi and find a job selling cars at this Ford dealership. And I ended up staying out there for about 18 months, and I transferred back to the dealership here in Memphis.
Okay. And is that still your job?
No. I was working, I did car sales for probably 5 years. I did, for AutoNation Ford. After that, I started to try to get into coaching. They got a new school here that a guy opened up, is Memphis Day Academy. I tried coaching in that aspect, and I found out that coaching probably really isn't for me, because the kids these days are not like the kids were when we back when we playing, And I decided to, I don't want to go into coaching, so I need to find something else to do. And then me and my wife got together, and I started talking to her about food, because I always liked to cook. I worked in the cafeteria, I worked in the chow halls, I worked in the prisons where, I had to feed 1,200 people. I'm in charge of that. So I told her I want to start, let's get a food trailer. And ever since, probably was last year, I got a food trailer, and I started running around town now. That's what I do now. I'm my own small business.
I mean, how hard was it? You're coming out of prison, you're not really used to really working a 9-to-5 job, and now you're selling cars.
Well, there's another thing. When you're in prison, you're going to get used to working a 9-to-5 job. You got to get out of that bunk at 6:30 in the morning. And you got to get somewhere, and you got to be somewhere until 4 o'clock main count. You can't be running around on the compound, so where you going to be? You got to have a job. And then those jobs, you're making 20 cents an hour. So in my mind, if I come out, I can get a job, anything making more than 20 cents an hour would be great. But then I got lucky and jumped into car sales.
Right. And I think in 2019, you started working with Manhood University.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And it's designed to reduce recidivism, in terms of prisoners coming back to society. And you actually spoke about that. You said, why am I here? Mainly, I'm here to better myself. I went to the NBA. That's another part of my life. After the NBA, I made some wrong choices and got in trouble with some wrong people and had to do time. You really can't find a job that you can make a good living being my age and being my height. I went through a few programs that they had, but they didn't work. So, you basically talked about how being a 7-footer in the NBA with a felony on your record, trying to find a regular job, as you have a whole new direction in your life. I mean, it definitely sounds tough.
Yeah, it is. It really is. I mean, it's hard to pick up and start something new. That's why you gotta, and then when you want to work for somebody, it's like at my age, it's hard for me to go work for somebody, that's going to tell me what to do and what not to do. Cause then I'm going to start reframing back to, I went through prison with this, telling me every waking moment what I got to do and how I got to do it. It just wouldn't sit right with me when I don't have a door closed behind me. You don't have no keys. I'm not under arrest. Now, that don't sit right with me. So I said, well, you better start doing something for yourself. You got to start in your own business.
Right. Ultimately, that's what you did. You have your food truck,
mm-hmm.
which is dope, which is great. So what's next for you?
Well, I'm not really sure. I really want this food truck to bring me a building so I can have my own restaurant. That's one of my number one goals, to have my own restaurant, to be able to walk out and see all these people and, know that they're eating something I created. Recently, I got married and I celebrated my first year anniversary. And that's another step. Pretty much. It's just to work hard from here and making the marriage work and making the business work and doing the normal life.
You have kids?
Yes, I have kids.
Okay. How old were your kids when you went in?
My last two kids were 18 months and 8 months when I went in.
Wow.
Yeah. So they're out. I got out, and when I got out, I got custody of them. And I raised them for the next 5 years. So now they just moved back to Houston. So,
but that must have been tough to go in at 18 months and then to come out when they're 10 years old, essentially. and you missed all that.
Yeah, I missed a lot. And I'm grateful for the people that was at the CPS place or where they were. They kept me in touch with them. Had my counselor, let me get on the phone with them sometime and talk to them up until they can understand who they was talking to. And then after I got out, I was allowed to go to visit and see them. Before I check into the halfway, we got 24 hours before you get out of prison to the time you check in the halfway house, you got 24 hours. So within that 24 hours, I went to see them. And it shocked me because they actually knew who I was. And I didn't think, 8 months, no, 18 months, maybe. But they acted like they knew who I was, and it was on from there.
So you never visited them? Well, they never visited you while you were locked up?
No, they didn't visit me when I was locked up. Mom took them and ran off.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah.
William Bedford, quite a story. And it seems like most kids who are growing up, their dream is to make it to the NBA. Once they pick up a basketball, it's like they want to be the NBA, not realizing that that's only step one. Getting into the NBA, is the first step. Staying in the NBA is the harder step, as you're sitting there competing with the best players from all over the planet. I mean, these days the NBA is international. They'll find a guy in Beirut. They'll find a guy in Zimbabwe. They'll find any 7-footers on the planet, train them up and put them in there, and they're all just as hungry as you are. And it just kind of shows that not all that, glitters is gold, because, there are, the NBA success stories and so forth. But I think the majority are people like yourself that get in the NBA, play a few years, make some money, and then have to figure out what they have to do with the rest of their life, because they're still young men when the league is over.
Yeah. Your game.
They have a lot of years left to live, and they have a family, and they're used to a certain type of lifestyle. And I think that the story of what you went through of like, oh, let me try to do something illegal to try to maintain this money is a very common story. It's not always illegal, but you see people that try to flip their money, do scams, they gamble, and a lot of them end up in the same place that you did.
Right.
So I think this is kind of just a very important story that people have to learn, that the NBA will not cure all your life's problems.
No.
It's just a part of your life.
No, it's just a part, just like holding a job. Once you finish that job, it's over with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're not involved in the NBA at all anymore? You don't go to events or anything else like that?
I'm not involved in the NBA at all, because, it's taking up all my time with this food trailer. But if an opportunity came up for me to get back there, acclimated with the NBA, doing something, yeah, I would jump back into it both feet. But at this point, nothing has come up like that.
Well, I talked to John Sally, who's a regular on my show and also a good friend of mine. And, I asked him, hey, I'm about to interview William Bedford. And I don't know if you actually heard, but your name came up in one of our interviews before.
I seen it. I seen it.
John Sally mentioned it.
Yeah, I seen it.
And I asked him, what should I ask him during our interview? And he said, I quote, "Tell him I love him, and I'm sorry if I hurt his feelings mentioning his name, but he was a major influence in my moves with people. He's one of my favorite teammates. Real talk."
No, he didn't hurt my feelings. I know John. I know how John talk. I know Sal, put it that way. There's two people. You got John and you got Sal. So,
right.
Yeah.
That's what it is, man. William Bedford, I appreciate the time, man. Wish you all the best for your family and your business. I hope that food truck takes off the way you're planning it. You know what I mean? Hope you get that big poppin' restaurant, that blows up and has multiple locations, and you could live off your retirement in style.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate being on.
Absolutely. Until next time.
All right.
Peace.
Thank you.